Welcome to the Basketball Show podcast edition on the Stingray Podcast Network. We have a great show for you today. Alan Horton from the Timberwolves, their play-by-play voice, and the play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks, Chuck Cooperstein, among other guests, join us today. Thanks so much for being with us and enjoy the show. Pleased to welcome back into the studio the off-wandering Ryan Reed. Ryan, welcome back from Toronto.
I'm back. I'm ready to talk to some basketball. Let's get to work.
We're going to work you hard today. And I am pleased to be joined by a special guest today as Brian Swain is relaxing by some lake today. Hope Brian is warm.
Nope.
Wrapped up. I'm pleased to welcome in Doug McLean. Doug, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, guys. Good to be here.
Well, and for those of you who are familiar or not familiar with Doug McLean, Doug is the voice of the Golden Bears and Pandas, and also works in international broadcasting for many, many sports. And I've had the privilege and pleasure for many years to be doing the play-by-play or I do the color because I can't do play-by-play. And Doug does the play-by-play for the Edmonton Stingers, and we get ready to kick off season 6 together.
Yeah, it's coming up fast. I mean, the season gets going this week. I think we're at home June 2nd, so it's coming up pretty quickly. But looking forward to working with you again, as always.
As always, Doug. And like I said, it's just a real treat to have you here today. Ryan, what's our text line, everybody, is 1-833-401-1440. Again, 833-401-1440. What's our poll question for the day?
We're talking about the NBA playoffs again over on Twitter, basketball_show. Go cast your vote right now. It's the most surprising team of the playoffs so far. The options we landed on were the Minnesota Timberwolves, who've had a surprising run here. Well, maybe not surprising to some, but Anthony Edwards especially coursing through that playoffs. We have Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic doing what he's done for years now, but as the 5 seed, making a run perhaps to the conference finals if they get one more game on the Thunder. We also have the Pacers, a 6 seed that upset Milwaukee in the first round and now forced a Game 7 against the New York Knicks, and the other team being just them, the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson, 40-point game after 40-point game, flashes of Isaiah Thomas, we talked about in the playoffs from a couple years ago, just more sustained. Those are our 4 options: the Knicks, the Pacers, the Timberwolves, and the Dallas Mavericks. Cast your vote right now on basketball_show.
Really pleased to be welcoming back our friend, head broadcaster, play-by-play stalwart for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Alan Horton, joining us again. Alan, thanks so much for making time. I know this is both an exciting and a very, very busy time for you. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Yeah, you got it, Paul. Anytime.
So, Alan, here's my overarching question. What a crushing defeat of the Denver Nuggets the other night. Is that the Timberwolves finding their footing defensively, refinding their defensive mojo, along with more balance in their offensive side? Did the Nuggets just not show up that night? What was your assessment of that lopsided victory?
What I took from it was a increased sense of desperation for the Timberwolves. They got after it defensively. They were better offensively. They played with more pace and purpose. And maybe it took, having their backs against the wall and facing elimination for them to finally come out and play, like we saw them play in the first 2 games of this series. They just came out flying. And although they got down 9-2, they put together a 20-0 run right after that. And never really looked back. I mean, they just put their foot down. They kept going and pushing that lead until the final horn. Even when the reserves came in, it was still a rout. It was surprising. It's been I think it's been a really entertaining series, but we have not had a lot of close games. In fact, we've had none. The first game of the series, went into clutch time, the final 5 minutes with the score within 5 points. But the Wolves kind of pulled away down the stretch to win that one, and the other ones just haven't been that close. But I don't think it's taken away from sort of the excitement and drama within the series, because you've got some really impressive performances from both sides.
You really do, Alan. And I guess in taking a broader view of the NBA playoffs this year, it's been a dynamic year. I can't remember the last time that there have been so many compelling series in each of the rounds. And now you've got 3 series. Dallas is in Game 6 against OKC, but you've got Game 7s for both of the other series that are going on right now. Going back to the Wolves, though, we both know, and you sit courtside to the envy of all of us sitting here in the studio every game watching this. But so much of basketball is imposing your will on your opponent, and the Wolves' first 2 games were all about that. Denver then found something else and put the Wolves on their heels. But here's where I'm going with it: for a team to become a championship contender, you have to go through the testing period where everything that you've done, that you've relied on, is tested and challenged and in some cases taken away from you in order to break through and to be able to overcome, in this case, the defending NBA champion. Do you think the Wolves are on the verge of that?
I think they could be. It all depends on how they come out and play tomorrow. It's all right there for the taking. A lot of people nationally would say, well, the Wolves have to earn your trip. You can't just make this run to the finals and without going through with some adversity, and maybe you've got this window of time. But I always kind of cringe when I think of if you're a young team and you've got this window, your 2 to 5 year window is open, and you're going to have all these runs. Those windows don't always open. Sometimes. With roster constructions, you have to make tough decisions during that span, and the personnel change and the coaches change, or there's an injury. There's unforeseen things. You have to. I'm just a big believer in embracing the moment, and when you've got an opportunity, go for it. I mean, there's no reason to wait for next year just because you got to the second round this year after getting the first round the last 2 years. I think the last 2 years have been really a stepping stone for this team to not just get to the second round, but they think they can get to the NBA Finals, and they think they can win it. That they've got to prove it, and you've got to get through the defending champs, who I saw a note the other day that the last 4 seasons, teams that are either the Nuggets or beat the Nuggets in the postseason went on to all of them went on to the NBA Finals. So the Nuggets obviously won one of those last year, but the teams to beat Denver the last 3 years before that all got to the finals. So this, your road goes through Denver. It's got to go through the 3-time MVP, and you've got to earn it. And the Wolves have pushed them to 7 games. That's the place they haven't been during this current era. I mean, 4 years ago they had a couple of Game 7s in the bubble, and we can take that for what it's worth. But this is 2 heavyweights slugging it out, and I'm fascinated to see how it turns out tomorrow night.
You're listening to the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. I'm your host, Paul Sir, along with Alan Horton, voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that was a great summary, by the way, Alan, because all you have is what's right in front of you. The rest of the path moving forward is foggy, whether it's injuries or players just losing their mojo, whatever it is. We've rarely seen a clear pathway to a championship, and I think the Timberwolves, they're right there. And are they good enough to beat the Nuggets? Absolutely. They've already beaten them in 3 games. And so talk about what there's 2 players I'm curious about. And we'll talk about, and these are players that I think are just so instrumental, and that's Karl Anthony Towns and McDaniels. Like, they had better games the other night, even though Anthony Towns didn't score much. He was a more solid presence on the floor than I think he has been in the 3 losses. But McDaniels showing up offensively was really critical the other night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's something Chris Finch has talked about really all season. When Jaden has that kind of an impact on the offensive end, it really opens everything else up, because you can't just play off him and dare him to shoot. I mean, he hit 3 threes the other night. He drove it. He scored 8 of 10 from the field. He was driving it. He was getting to the free throw line. He was hitting threes. And that just lessens the offensive burden. And what I liked most about it, Paul, was the fact that he made good decisions and quick, confident decisions, which is what you have to do when you're playing alongside Anthony Edwards. And Denver's been throwing multiple defenders at him. They're forcing the ball out of Ant's hands. They don't want Edwards to beat them. Well, if you're going to do that, you have to. If you're the Timberwolves, you have to make them pay. Ant's got to get rid of the ball, and it's 4-on-3 elsewhere on the floor. But if you're not quick and decisive about what you're going to do when you get the ball, like the Wolves weren't in Game 5. So Denver ran multiple defenders at Ant. He passed out of it, but there was this hesitation. They was kind of unsure of what to do, and the defense was able to recover every time. you have to, when they put 2 on it, you have to be able to take advantage of 4-on-3 basketball. And they did that for the most part in Game 6. And as for Towns, he's really come into a different role this postseason. They haven't needed him to score 25 or 30 points. That's not what they need from him. That's Anthony Edwards' role, and he is doing that at a really high level. What they need from Karl, especially in this series, is for him to stay out of foul trouble and be disciplined and play good defense to start with, because he's been the best defender on Nikola Jokic. He has put up the best defensive numbers. It's not been Rudy. It's not been Naz Reid. It's not been Kyle Anderson. Cat, just for whatever the reason, has a better defensive skill set against Nikola Jokic than anybody else on the floor. So they love to have Towns on Jokic, and they love to have Gobert against Aaron Gordon. And Gordon hangs out in the dunker spot. Rudy can then drift off of him and kind of protect the rim if and when somebody gets to the cup. And that's where Rudy's at his best. And so Karl, the other night, has a huge impact, but only scores 10 points, like you mentioned. But he had 13 rebounds, and his defense, once again, against Jokic was really good. And that's a recipe for victory. It doesn't always have to be about scoring 20, 25, or 30 points a game. It's and I think he has kind of figured that out in this series, and that's something that the coaching staff, I think, has been preaching to him. They don't need him to do more than he's out of his skill set. Don't try to do too much. That's where Karl gets into trouble. He picks up offensive fouls, picks up turnovers. There's a lot of high voltage, like Chris Finch likes to say, where he's trying to draw contact on a shot and he's just going 1-on-3. That's not a recipe for success. He's got to be disciplined, take the shots when he's given to him, make the right play. Doesn't always have to be the fancy play, especially when he gets doubled. Just kick it out. Just make the simple first pass, which leads to the second pass, which leads to the third pass, and now hopefully you have an advantage on the other side of the floor. And when you do give it up, it's always amazing to me in this league. It's not just a Timberwolves issue. It's that when the offense is bogged down, it's usually about ball movement, player movement. The ball gets sticky. The easiest offense to defend is one that doesn't move the ball. It means you just stand there as a defense and you got everything covered. You've got to make defenses work. And when the Wolves are at their best, they've got good ball movement and making quick, decisive moves.
Alan, Doug McClain here. I thought when you look at the numbers from the game the other day, second chance points, offensive rebounds, you might not think that Minnesota really dominated the paint, but I loved what they did inside in terms of creating, just keeping balls alive, those second chance opportunities that they did create. What did you like about their game inside in terms of how that affected what Denver was able to do?
I love that all 3 bigs had 10-plus rebounds. I'm not sure that's happened too many times the entire season, and they did it really early, too. I mean, Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, they dominated the glass, and it's kind of this. This series is not a huge 3-point shooting series. Neither team is a high volume 3-point shooting team. Yes, they'll use it when it's there, but they don't focus in on just jacking up 45 to 50 threes a game. And so it's kind of an old school type game. And you remember, when we were growing up, coaches always used to talk about, hey, if you control the glass, you control the game. Rebounding was really important. And this is a series which has shown that if you control the glass in a game, you got a good chance to win. And so I think anytime you can get that kind of balance and that kind of mindset from those 3 bigs to set the tone on the glass, you're in really good shape.
Alan, I love the fact that you emphasized when you were describing Karl Anthony Towns against Jokic the importance of a particular matchup. Oftentimes, I think the notion that matchups are really keys to games gets glossed over, and it's just one of those platitudes that people just automatically say when they describe teams playing against each other. Cat, we know, has defensive limitations in a lot of situations, and I think that was one of the reasons that the trade for Gobert was doubted so much, was because of that combination of Gobert and Cat, who's not a fast-footed exterior defender, but his foot speed and Jokic's are similar, and his basketball IQ is very high. So his ability to anticipate what Jokic is doing really has made a difference, even though Jokic, as the MVP, still has success. But the other night in particular, that success was really limited.
Yeah, I mean, after what Jokic did in Game 5, which was just, I'll probably look back at that at some point and realize that was one of the great performances maybe in playoff history. I mean, 40 points, 13 assists, no turnovers, and he was just hitting every shot, right hand, left hand, off the right foot, left foot, fading, leaning in. I mean, the guy has got it all. His shooting touch is just remarkable to me. I really do appreciate it every time I watch him play, even though he's usually picking up wins against the Timberwolves. It's a bit of a dichotomy there. You're just like, I appreciate the greatness, but I'm not enjoying the losing that's coming with it. Yeah, not tonight. But, and I think Cat also provides a little more resistance. I think he's got a little more girth to him than Rudy, because there were too many possessions in Game 5 where Jokic was just able to back down Rudy and had space to operate. And the Wolves have changed that up. They can't allow Jokic, and that's the game within the game too. The Wolves want Cat onto Jokic. Well, the Nuggets want Jokic against anybody else, so they'll run switches. They'll try to get that switch where they can get Rudy to come on to Jokic. And that's kind of the Wolves do the same thing at the other end, trying to get Ant on different defenders, running lots of screens and handoffs, those type of things to create advantages. And that's all the game within the game. But it's fascinating watching the bigs go at it, and in a league that is more dominated by guards and wings. It's kind of a fun series to see these big guys go at it.
It really is, and I think it. There are several myths that I am enjoying that getting dispelled right now, Alan, and that is there's no place for bigs in the game anymore. The positionless basketball nonsense, the analytics emphasis threes or layups when you watch like a Gilgeous-Alexander and Ant, who I think has done a great job of adding a really nice mid-range game into his offensive mix that I think it just makes everything else that in his case that much easier using the mid-range as opposed to focusing just on the threes and getting to the rim. So I just love the fact that bigs are coming back into style. They're different bigs than before, but even for a player like Gobert, a traditional shot blocker, defensive stalwart, just that he has a meaningful role. I think that's a tribute to Chris Finch, understanding the talent that he had and utilizing it to get the maximum out of the talent on the roster.
Yeah. I love your point about the mid range too. I think especially when you get to the postseason, now you're playing it's elite versus elite, right? The best teams in the league are rising to the top, and so those teams are good for a reason. They're mostly good offensively and defensively, but they're really good in preventing some of those high-efficiency shots, the analytical-friendly shots, the shots at the rim, the three-point line. And sometimes I think in the postseason, that's where the value of the mid-range game comes in. Yes, it's not the most analytically friendly shot, but sometimes you're playing a 92-90 game. That's the pace you're on, where points are tough to come by. And if that's the open shot, well, then that becomes a good shot to me, even though it's not a three or it's not a layup, which you hit at a very high percentage. Those are tough to come by. And you see it with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Jalen Brunson does it a lot. His whole game is based on that mid-range and finding space. And Anthony Edwards, you're right, has developed that mid-range game specifically for postseason play when guys are really focused in. You're playing 5, 6, 7 games against the same opponents. They know your tendencies. You've got to find space on the floor, and wherever that space is, that's an open shot. That becomes a good shot, in my opinion.
Alan Horton, voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves, thanks so much for joining us today and making time. I'm excited for the Wolves. I'm excited for the Twin Cities. I'm excited for Alan Horton. I'm excited for all of us who have been long-suffering fans of this franchise to see them in a position now to take a next step. So enjoy the game. I look forward to talking in the future, Alan. Always think it's great when you come on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, you got it. And one last note for the Wolves. So tomorrow is 20 years to the day that they played their only other Game 7 in franchise history, which back in 2004 in the second round at home to beat Sacramento, and it's also KG's birthday. So a couple of things I think that kind of tie in kind of nicely, and maybe, just maybe, that has probably zero impact on tomorrow's outcome, but I like to think it would. Well, Paul, always great to talk to you, man.
All right, likewise, Alan. All the best. Alan Horton, voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves, joining us on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. We've got more great NBA conversation with Chuck Cooperstein from the Dallas Mavericks. They play tonight in Game 6, and we're going to have a great conversation about this matchup with OKC. You're listening to the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Happy to be joined by the voice of the Dallas Mavericks, welcoming back Chuck Cooperstein. Chuck, thanks so much for making time on game day to talk to us up here in the frozen North Tundra in Edmonton, Alberta. Chuck, you are a gem.
Well, listen, our cities may be coming a little closer here in a couple of days if the Oilers can behave themselves.
Well, we hope they behave themselves. They have misbehaved far too often, so there's a lot of doubters a lot of hand-wringing going on in Edmonton right now, Chuck.
Yes, I see.
So, Chuck, Game 6, Mavs up 3-2. You have done this as an organization with a hobbled Luka Doncic. What adjustments have been made? Is this a two-part question? Is this just how good Luka is? Or have other adjustments been made around Luka that have made this very, very impressive run happen?
I mean, other players have stepped up, clearly. I mean, P.J. Washington and Derek Jones in particular have been sensational in this series. I mean, Washington in games 2 through 4, Jones in 4 through 5. Jones is 17 and 19 points. I mean, you're not expecting that out of him. I mean, clearly you're not expecting 3 20-point games in a row from Washington and 3 double-doubles in the series, which is, it's more than he had in all of his games with the Mavericks after the trade. The centers have been terrific here. It's really about their defense and not even so much about Luka's scoring, although Luka's scoring does make it easier for everybody else to do their thing. But Luka got off early in Game 5, and it really did set a tone. And, he is a great player, and he is, in my opinion, the MVP of this league. But you can't do it alone. You never can do it alone. And they've clearly bought into Jason Kidd's philosophy. Defense first. We got to be able to do that, and then everything else is going to follow from there. They've now taken to the brink to where they have really taken a really good offensive team in Oklahoma City and have them thinking that they don't really know where it's all coming from and why it has happened the way it's happened, to the point where the Thunder have scored fewer points in every game of the series, from 117 to 110 to 101 to 100 to 92, a season low for them in any game all year long on Wednesday night in Game 5.
The one surprising factor is that Kyrie Irving has been offensively, in terms of points scored, very silent. Is that, and yet the success has come from other players, as you indicate, Chuck. Does that surprise you? Or is that?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, what
it's definitely surprising. I mean, they're taking it out of his hands. I mean, they are really blitzing him hard and not allowing him to get to his spots and really to be able to shoot the ball. I mean, to where he's only taken 11 shots in each of the last 2 games. Obviously, 2 of the games he hasn't even scored in double figures, and he didn't do that in any game all season. They're deathly afraid, clearly, of what he is able to do, because he's been so efficient when he shoots it. Luka, even in the Clipper series, wasn't always efficient. But Kyrie has just been a killer, and they've definitely taken it out of his hands more than they've taken it out of Luka's hands. Even as the Mavericks have tried, I think the last couple of games, to try to get Kyrie going a little earlier in the game and not have him be as passive as he can be in the first half of games, while just sort of evaluating the scene and then figuring out what he needs to do in the second half of games. But again, the Thunder have dared Washington and have dared Derek Jones and have dared the centers to beat them, and at least 3 out of 5 times they have.
When I hear you talking and describing it in that way, Chuck, I think what you've done is you've really laid out what a chess game basketball can be. Basically, Gilgeous-Alexander has continued to score, but other players just haven't been as effective, and you've taken away other players, like you indicated early. They don't know where your defensive shifts are going to come from, and then on the other side, you've got Irving being slowed down because of the defensive emphasis that has been put on stopping Kyrie and making other players beat you. And in this case, as you point out, the other players have stepped up and they have found a way to beat the Thunder and keep moving this forward. I just love the chess game that you're describing.
Well, look, ultimately, this series, and we knew this from the beginning, was going to come down to two things. It was going to come down to the Mavericks' ability to hold on to the basketball against Oklahoma City. For the most part, they've been okay, save for game one when they lost. But Oklahoma City is still really good in taking your turnovers and turning them into points. And you have to be able to limit that. And the Mavericks have been okay in that area. Not great, but acceptable. And the other thing is rebounding, defensive rebounding, because Oklahoma City is not big. They elect to play small, all the time. Even though you've got Chet Holmgren in the game, they've got no legitimate power forwards to play alongside him, or even to back him up in sort of another small ball five look. And when the Mavericks have defensive rebounded like they did the other night in Game 5, they win convincingly. And when they don't, as was the case in Games 1 and 4, they lose. And that's going to be the case tonight, and it'll be the case if indeed there is a Game 7 on Monday night. Those are the two factors that supersede anything else that happens in this series. You can talk about strategies and schemes and whatnot, but those are the two things that have been clear from the get-go and have absolutely played themselves out in this series.
I'm talking with Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Dallas Mavericks, here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. How hurt is Luka? I'm really impressed with his grittiness, and I'm really impressed still. I mean, Luka to me is I mean this in the most complimentary way. He is the ultimate pickup basketball player in the world. He and Jokic to me are the way they play, the pace, the way they're able to control their defender and control the pace and not have to get to spots with blazing speed. Everything is played at their pace. And Luka, even though he's hobbled, is still in most situations able to get to the spots he wants to get to and to create space for him to get the shots that he wants to get. Is that an accurate portrayal of just how great Luka is? You say you think he should be the MVP. Why don't you make your case?
Well, it's the record when he plays versus when he doesn't play is that. His team was basically hurt for the first 2/3 of the season, and he kept them above board, doing things at a level that had never been seen before in the league. I mean, nobody has ever averaged 33 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists in a season, and do it in the efficient manner in which he does. He's the one guy in this league that you talk to coaches and they say he's absolutely the most dangerous offensive player in the game because he can just beat you in so many ways. And I think we're seeing that. I mean, look at some of the passes he threw in Game 5. I mean, that 75-footer Lively for the dunk. I mean, nobody does that. Nobody makes that play. And when he let that thing go, he knew he had that play. He knew that Lively was going to catch that and dunk it. The lob to Derek Jones. I mean, just the fact that he creates that pressure on the defense in the pick and roll game and make them pick their poison like nobody else is able to do in the game because he's as big as he is, he's as strong as he is, and he's as skilled as he is. But to your original question, he's hurt. I mean, he's clearly hurt, and he's been hurt for, he's been dealing with various maladies for about 2 months. But, when he got hurt in the Clipper series, he banged his knees with Zubats, and he's got a sprain that, we all, have been told that were this the regular season, he probably would have been out 2 weeks. But it's the playoffs. So you wrap it up and you strap it up and you go and you do the best you can do with it. And I think, he hasn't been his best, although, both Game 5s, I think against the Clippers and against the Thunder, he was at his best. But, it's the sign of a great team that, look, our guy is out here, man. He's warring, playing warrior, for us, and we have to help him. And they're doing that, and that's why they're in the position that they're in.
One of the things that, as I'm listening to you, you hear so many comments about load management and players sitting out, that a lot of a lot of players don't play hurt in the modern game. And I'm not going to name any names, but a lot of players don't play hurt. To have Doncic out there playing hurt and playing effectively, number one, but being able still, while limited physically, to use that magnificent footwork that he has. Like you were mentioning, Chuck, about the, just the skill level that he has, and he beats you in literally almost every way. I think of all of the players I've seen and all of the players that I admire throughout the NBA history, I really have never seen anybody with the footwork that is as versatile and deadly as the footwork of Luka Doncic.
He's been special for a long time. He's been special basically since he was 16 years old and playing at Real Madrid in the second best basketball league in the world, and not just surviving there but thriving there. And he's brought that to the NBA. He's gotten better every year. This year he improved his free throw shooting, improved his 3-point shooting, and we all wondered, what the numbers would look like if he was able to shoot the NBA average, which he did. He was slightly above average in both of those, and the numbers are what the numbers are, and he's load managed a little bit this year. I mean, he missed. There have been several second night of back-to-backs that he didn't play during the regular season, but nobody's load managing the playoffs. I mean, everybody wants to play in the playoffs. Everybody wants to win in the playoffs. I mean, I look at a team like the Knicks. Those guys aren't load managing, man.
They are not.
They're not playing because they're hurt, and listen, I really think that's true of Jimmy Butler. Now, in the regular season, say Jimmy Butler of Miami, I mean, there's no question that he load manages, and it's absolutely among the most aggravating things that, as an NBA fan, you could ever experience. But he didn't play in that series, in the first round against Boston. And clearly he was hurt because he absolutely lives for that moment. I mean, you wish that guys would live for more than just the playoffs, that they would go out and, do the job that they're being paid to do for 82 games a year. But for many of them, that's just they just don't think that way anymore. And frankly, the teams that employ them don't think that way anymore. So you wind up getting a lesser product than probably what you should get. But in the playoffs, nobody's load managing. And if you can play and you can play somewhat effectively, and certainly in Doncic's case, 70 or 75% of Doncic is better than 100% of a lot of other players. He's going to be out there. He's going to be trying to do everything he can to help his team win.
Well, Chuck, best of luck to the Mavs tonight. I know this is an exciting time for you and for all the Maverick fans. I hope it's I hope it's a result that you want. I also hope our Oilers are playing your Dallas team as well in hockey. And thanks so much for making time for us today. It really, really, really great to have you on, and all the best, and I look forward to talking again in the near future.
Appreciate you having me, Paul. Thanks so much.
All right, Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Dallas Mavericks, here joining us on the basketball show on Sports 1440. We're going to take a break right now. We'll wrap up, find out our poll numbers, talk about the NBA, talk about a variety of things. Thanks so much for making us a part of your Saturday morning, the basketball show on Sports 1440. Ryan, why don't you give our listeners our poll updates?
Yeah, so the question on Twitter was, which team has been the biggest surprise in the NBA playoffs so far? We had the Pacers as an option, the Dallas Mavericks, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the New York Knicks. Unsurprisingly, we had two of those teams' representatives on the show today, so that was kind of nice. But actually, one of them, 0 votes. Dallas Mavericks did not receive a single vote in this one. Not one of the biggest surprises. That actually might be a good thing, honestly, for the Mavericks, that people expected them to do this. But more than half the vote, 54.2% of the vote, voted for the Minnesota Timberwolves as the most surprising team, which you can see the rise of Anthony Edwards to a legitimate top 5, top 6 player all of a sudden in the NBA. And he's a younger guy, born in 2001. I think he's a couple weeks older than me. So good for Anthony Edwards. Indiana Pacers, 16.7% of the vote with Tyrese Halliburton and co. New York Knicks, 29%. But the winner is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 54.2% of the vote.
Well, I think it's understandable. Timberwolves absolutely lambasted Phoenix, made the triumvirate of Durant, Booker, and Beal just look inept, and then rolled over Denver in the first two, and now they've battled back and thumped them the other night. That is really surprising. A 45-point win in a 7-game series against anybody is a surprise, but much less against Denver, the defending champion.
And that's the question. Does that wake them up? Not that Denver's been asleep in the series because they were down 2-0, come back, win 3. But does that really snap them to attention heading home for Game 7? I don't know. And again, if you're Minnesota, you don't control that. I mean, you heard Alan Horton say, they were even into garbage time pushing things. You don't control that. Denver did not play very well. That's not Minnesota's fault. Well, they contributed to that, but that's not Minnesota's fault. So the fact that they won the poll, it's not entirely surprising. It might be a bit of legacy too, considering how it's been a bit of a struggle. It has been a challenged franchise, let's say that, since it showed up in the late 80s.
Inept, that I think is another word that would accurately describe the T-Wolves. Here's the thing, though. This is what the 45-point win means to me. What needs to translate from that is that the Wolves don't let Denver dictate the way Denver dictated in their 3 victories. They took Minnesota out of their flow completely, number one. McDaniels, who had 21 the other night, disappeared offensively. Cat was making the bad decisions Allen was referring to. Jokic, who described himself, I thought, humorously as a freak athlete in the post-conference, because he had 5 dunks in the game, but when you watch the highlights of the dunks, the Wolves are all standing there just, like YMCA lanes, allowing him to just go in and dunk. Jokic isn't a 5-dunk-a-game player. That's the other team giving up. So Coach Chris Finch, who I think is the coach of the year, he got them riled up and ready to go. And it's that discovery of your strengths. And now can they go out there and put their best effort against Denver's best effort, and then we'll see who wins. That, to me, is what needs to translate that has made this series uneven to this point, but it all now culminates in Game 7.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. And that's the case for any team in the playoffs. Can you, at the right moment, pull together everything you need? And I don't think Minnesota has to play out of their minds to beat Denver. They've proven they don't have to. But like to your point, can you put your best on the floor at the right moment? It's been an up and down series for both teams. Can Minnesota carry that momentum in? That's always a challenge. And basketball is an interesting sport. Momentum, I don't find that it, maybe back in the day it did. I don't find it carries as much now. And again, that's what kind of my point around, you lose by 45 if you're Denver, you just throw it away and say, okay, whatever, we're at home, we're the defending champs, let's go. I'm not sure momentum carries, but to your point, for Minnesota, can they build on especially what they did defensively, can they build on that into Game 7?
Exactly. Can our best beat your best? That's what this is going to come down to. Now, I'm curious, guys, about your opinion on the Pacer-Knicks series. Ryan, the Knicks are a marvel. I had the opportunity to be on Jason Greger's show earlier this week, and when we were discussing the Pacers-Knicks, I was saying, you know what? I just don't think the Knicks have the energy. Like they at some point they've got to run out of gas. I was sure wrong about the game that followed my comments that night, because the Knicks had an unbelievable performance, and the trio of Hart, DiVincenzo, and Brunson were just remarkable. Hartenstein was just a monster on the boards. The energy and the effort was like an NCAA game. But then last night, Pacers took it to them and took it from them. And I think you saw some of that haggard reality that the Knicks they lost 4 of their top 6 players. And they're just doing remarkably. But at some point in elongated series, that's going to come back to haunt you. And I think we may be at that point. Now, having said that, if I were a gambling man for Game 7, I'd bet on the Knicks.
For sure. It's one of those ones where it's one game and all statistics are kind of out the window for that one game. It's just, let's see who wins. You mentioned 4 of their best players are missing, and the players that are taking the spot are stepping up to some extent. Like in the game they lost last night, Miles McBride had 20 points in 35 minutes, which is pretty impressive for a player that hadn't done much during the regular season as far as like 20-point games go. Precious Achiuwa, Raptors legend, 12 points there, 8 rebounds in 25 minutes. So they have players stepping up, but their starters, Josh Hart only had 5 in 31 minutes. Isaiah Hartenstein had 4 in 33 minutes. And again, that's not really his role. He did have 6 assists and 7 rebounds, but you do want more from Hartenstein. But it'll come down for me in Game 7 is what Tyrese Halliburton's going to do. Throughout the series with the Knicks here, Tyrese Halliburton's been slightly underwhelming, most people would say. Passive at sometimes, not playing defense when he should. I'm a big Tyrese Halliburton fan. As a Kings fan, watching him drafted to us 12th overall back.
Always got to bring it back to the Kings, of course. But
it would be rude not to. For me. He had 15 points in the win last night, and again, it just feels like he's being a little more passive. So if he can really take over and again, one game, just a fresh slate, ignore everything that you've done so far in the playoffs. Pascal has been doing his thing. He had 25, 7, and 5 last game. But Tyrese Halliburton will be the X factor in this game. You know you're going to get from Brunson. You know what you're going to get from Pascal. Josh Hart and Hartenstein are going to do their thing on the boards. Dante DiVincenzo, another ex-King while we're at it. Hitting a couple threes is what he does too. But it's going to come down to Tyrese Halliburton, I think.
I think that's a fair summary. As much as I want on an emotional level to see the Pacers win and see another new team break through, I really hope we see a Knicks-Celtics series. I am a lifelong Celtics fan up to but not including the modern era so much. Old guy, Havlicek, Russell, Bird, and McHale, all those things. But this team bugs me. And it bugs me because they may be good enough to win the NBA championship. I don't think they are, but they may very well be. I almost wanted the Knicks to win in 5 and have a bit of time to rest and recover, and then have that hard-nosed, tough team play the pretty boys. Because I think Boston plays a pretty boy style of basketball. And so even though they only lost 1 to Cleveland, it was an ugly loss to them. It was an ugly loss to Miami. They should have rolled both of those teams. And you know what? You can say they did. Jason Tatum's one of the top players in the league. But I'm really curious to see how that Boston series will go against a slightly better team in a weaker East. But I think, it goes back, Doug, to the powers in the West, and we've got 2 really compelling series right now. Okay, I'm going to go around with you guys as we wrap things up here. Who do you pick between Dallas and OKC? Can Dallas wrap it up tonight?
I think they do. I mean, again, and it comes back to what we heard. I mean, Doncic is banged up, but sometimes that's the leverage you need to say we got to wrap this thing up now. If we're going to have a shot against whoever we're playing, whether it's Denver, for facing Denver or not, or Minnesota, you want to wrap it up early. So I'll go Mavs on that one tonight.
How about you, Ryan?
I'm going to say Dallas as well, but at the same time, I'm going to say it's a must-win for Dallas. If they lose this one to Oklahoma City is going to win one on the road, heading back home to that boisterous crowd they had over there in Oklahoma City, and the home crowd is a serious advantage, especially come playoff time. So Dallas is going to win today, I think, but it is a must-win for Dallas. If they lose this game, I think the series is over.
Interesting take on it. I'm going to go with Dallas as well, and that pretty much seals an OKC victory. So I think you've
seen my betting record. You've seen like my prediction record. That's good.
but Minnesota Timberwolves against Denver. I mean, this is just purely being a fan. I'm going to go with Minnesota. I think Minnesota can do this. I really do. Even as great as Jokic is, as good as Jamal Murray can be, I don't know. I just have this, my instincts say that the strengths of Minnesota should be enough to beat Denver. I think if they're playing well, like I said, if it becomes an equal battle of wills, I'm going to give Minnesota a slight edge because they have some things that Denver doesn't have physically that I think they can take advantage of. And again, most likely, it's kind of a 60-40 split. Really and truly, Denver should be favored. But I'm just going to go as a homer and go with the Timberwolves. What do you guys think? Do you think the Timberwolves? Here's my quick question: do you think the Timberwolves have enough in the quiver to be able to beat Denver?
Yes, and I think I will say Denver, but I have a hard time saying that because of what you just talked about. And I think seeing that in Game 6, how they were able to play defensively, winning all the battles in the paint, creating those second chance opportunities for themselves. I mean, they had their way at the rim, and sometimes that gets into your head too. But I think, to your point, it demonstrates what Minnesota has. I just have a hard time picking against Denver. I think sometimes you get slapped around like that. You lose by 45. It sharpens you. It no matter whether it's Game 7 or whatever, you're a little sharper. You're a little tighter next game, and I wonder if that's what Denver needs at home to get them into the conference final.
Before I get your opinion on this, Ryan, the real quick comment I would make, though, was that because Minnesota was sharper? They definitely were. For what inexplicable reason, Denver was not sharp that night. But is that an indication, again, of fatigue, injury?
Yeah.
Are there bigger issues out there that you can look at and go, you throwing the towel in and just getting lambasted by 45? Jokic played 30-some minutes. It wasn't like they just surrendered threw the towel in. Their main players played a lot of minutes. So they were trying to find a way to battle back and just couldn't that night. So it's going to be interesting to see how that translates. So, Ryan?
I'm on the same page here. Denver with the experience. So I find a lot of the time experience is overrated when it comes to games, but in the playoffs, it is not overrated. Head coach Michael Malone, former Kings coach there as well.
Oh, jeez. My God.
Has definitely got his group in a great spot.
Is your favorite fast food restaurant Burger King? Is that
no comment?
So
just that experience that they have. Like, they've had guys that played together for so long, and Minnesota's still new to this. Their last Game 7 was, 20 years ago to the day, as Alan said, right? Yeah.
That's such you get those benchmark dates where you go, how can that happen where you've got this game being played on this date and these things happen on this date? It really is interesting. Well, it's going to be a great weekend for the NBA. WNBA is well underway. Lots of Caitlin Clark chatter. A couple of things I have to just say before we go. In tribute to my son, Ben, who passed a little over a year ago, I just have to always remind people, as Ben lived his life, be kind and assume the best. Be kind to and assume the best about everyone. We don't know what people are going through in their lives. Take energetic action every day. Make the most, and make sure that you always tell the people most important in your lives that you love them. You cannot say that too often. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Doug, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Ryan. Great to be here.
Ryan, great to have you back.
Happy to be. It was a great show. Great NBA content in the second half, too, and I'm excited for the NBA playoffs coming up here.
Oilers on tonight. NBA playoffs. We've got Knicks and Pacers. We've got Mavs tonight.
Great time for sports. Blue Jays, too, are in action, although they're not that great. But
who are the Blue Jays? Anyway, yeah, right. Okay, sure. Thanks, everybody, for listening. It's a great show today. Have a great weekend and a great week on and off the court.